You're not left behind. More work doesn't necessarily mean to better output. In fact, it can actually degrade the quality of your effort because you don't have enough time to reflect. You do not have enough time to analyze and see exactly what is going on. Also, too, you may be hindering your health by not getting enough sleep and just personal health optimization. And what happens is that when you do not have enough detachment from your work, other areas of your life can suffer, such as social relationships, family, or even personal happiness with like habits you may have or just some sort of interests. All these different areas, which all have like these different energy bars, they have to be filled up per se. But if one area of your life is consuming all of it, it can degrade everything else, which then ultimately leads into a degradation of your work life quality. So ultimately, you are not left behind. It's not about doing all these different things, all these different tasks. Sure, you can do all that, but more so it's about having the right mental framework so you can do these things. So rather than doing things just to do it, you want to do work that actually gets you somewhere, that is actually active in terms of moving the ball forward. Now, work historically has transformed and evolved significantly. It all started off mostly by being physical, right? Having a lot to do with our body, our different limbs, and things of that, working with our hands, using our legs to maybe even like crop the fields and even like traverse different land and stuff like that. So, historically, maybe in the last 100 years or so, that's when you started really seeing the cognitive work opportunities appear into human society. So rather than just being purely physically labor orientated work, it actually transformed into something that has a lot to do with your cognitive abilities, whether it's doing mental tasks, whether it's your ability to work with different numbers, math, science. All these things really started to appear in the last century or so, whereas before that, it was mostly having to do with actual labor and stuff like that. But now with the different societies, how it all has evolved. Now there's like these great first world countries. You can do all these different things in the world, right? You can have a job where you don't necessarily need to be outside and do all these things by hand, but actually you can have a desk job or something like that. So that's when like these cognitive tasks really started appearing in the workforce. And from that eventually came the thing what we know as knowledge work. Now knowledge work really came about with the advent of the internet. So prior, you can see that there started to be these appearances, and I'm not saying this is purely in the last 100 years. Like, sure, there were some sort of cognitive workers before that, but more so in like the last century, when now you can focus more on these mental tasks. And what I'm trying to say is that more recently, with the advent of the internet, now there's this new marketplace for knowledge workers where you can purely capitalize based on interests, on different hobbies and skills and knowledge you develop on the internet. This is all mostly just knowledge work. And what we see online really is that there's a lot of people promoting this hustle hard culture mentality. And there's nothing wrong with that. Sure, if you love the work, you can do it. But the thing is that you don't have to go this way. And on top, historically, when you look at what actually contributed to really high quality work from, like, say, the Renaissance era or some of these really great geniuses, what you'll notice is that they didn't optimize for doing a lot of things just for the sake of doing them. Instead, they optimized for long time durations, and on top of that, being able to produce quality work. For instance, look at, say, some figures like Albert Einstein, or Leonardo da Vinci, or Charles Darwin, or Sir Isaac Newton. Most of these figures worked on like their grand masterpieces anywhere from 5 to 20 years. Like Albert Einstein, he was wrestling with his theory of relativity for about 10 years. Charles Darwin with his theory of evolution for about 20 years. And then Leonardo da Vinci, even though he left a lot of work unfinished, his work roughly spanned anywhere from 3 to 5 plus years per painting, which is absolutely crazy. And then even Sir Isaac Newton, it took him about 20 years to produce his theory on gravity. So what we notice is that when you work with time and not really against time. Like, sure, you can use urgency and these deadlines manufactured to create things in urgent times when you need it. But what we see is that when you have a balance of quality and also time, throughout time, you're able to step away from the work, detach from it, and actually use these different creative abilities of your brain to produce something meaningful and big for the world. Whereas something that is just maybe half assed and produced in a quick time where you need it turned around, and then maybe the work may be flat, stale, and not as high quality as you desire it to be. So, what we notice is that what I'm encouraging people to do is to optimize for the long term. And then on top of that, you promote more quality through time versus just something in, say, a day, a week, or a month's worth of time where it may be missing some gaps and deficiencies. And it may not actually be something groundbreaking or something earth shattering. Whereas if you were to optimize for this longer sort of duration, looking back in history, why these people, these great figures were able to do this is because they had a lot of time to think. They had a lot of time where they organized their thinking towards some big goal, some big vision, some big master project they're working on, and they had a lot of time with themselves. They promoted a lot of solitude and reflecting on all these different areas and things going on in life so they can work on these things. But the thing is, that can also be a hindrance in itself if you do not have something to orientate all your conscious energy towards. Because if you go into these other states of your brain, like in my last video, we talked about the task positive network and the default mode network. The default mode network really has to do with just introspecting, being able to like piece things together while not actually being conscious on the task. Whereas the task positive network is when you're fully focused in flow, just going all in on your work. Now we need periods for both of these, but what it seems is that historically, when you look back at all these great figures, is that they promoted a fine balance of both. When we go into work, we produce high quality work, but then we have these long stretches of time where we're able to engage in hobbies, go talk to people, exchange ideas. And then by having this solitude, by able to have this freedom and detachment from your work, you're able to enrich in your ideas with all the new context, with all the new ideas, all the things that you're learning in the world to produce something that is really high quality and just a whole different level versus if you just half baked it. And then really the reason is just as I hinted before, is because we're now leveraging our subconscious mind. Like that is the secret. And in my last video too, I talked about how to use the MacGyver method to become more creative, solve problems really effectively, and how you can use your subconscious mind to solve them. And it's really because when you look at these historic figures, these great geniuses, these knowledge workers from hundreds of years ago, they were utilizing this gift that you have, I have, everyone has, and it's really with the power of the subconscious mind. We orient our direction, our focus, our goals towards something big, right? Like a vision, whether it's some big project we're working on or something like that. So there's this something that is bringing us close to it by being able to orient all of our decisions, our actions, and ideas around, right? Because if you don't have that, you can just self-degrade and fall into anxiety and depression. And that's something that happens when you're too much in this default mode network, when you're just ruminating a lot, when you're always just overthinking things. You can actually self-destroy yourself because the brain by nature decays. And by that, what I mean is it's in a state of entropy. There's this theory called the entropic brain theory, where your brain's natural gravity is towards a state of entropy. And that is obviously chaos, which you don't want, which obviously just results in anxiety, more stress, and potentially even depression. So when you're orientating yourself over some big vision, some big goal, some sort of massive transformative purpose, you're using this downtime for your brain, whether it's on walks or doing all these other things, so you can like fit in different information inputs coming into your life so you can enrich in your ideas, your problems, right? Your business or whatever creative work you're working on. So it's really about being able to use your subconscious mind with the default mode network of your brain to enrich in your ideas through time and not feel as if you have to rush it and just constantly work, and then just never have any sort of detachment from it. And the last thing I'm going to really mention here is the MacGyver method. I mentioned this again in my prior video, but it really is being able to use this subconscious process process and in a very strategic way. And that is by simply writing down the problem or thing you're working on at this moment. It could be a problem, it could just be something you want to gain some more clarity on or whatever. And then what you want to do after is, like, let's say I want to figure out how to get XYZ more clients. Let's say I want to get more, like 10 more clients. How can I attract 10 more different health coaching clients to me, right? You would write it down. And then after that, what you want to do is break away from your work. So it could be anywhere from 1 to 4 hours, even longer. And then in the meantime, when you're doing other things, such as like tasks, or maybe you're doing some exercise or something like that, your brain is still processing this all in the subconscious mind in the background. And then by the time you come back after that gap of time, you're more ready to actually work out the problem. So what do you do then? Well, it's time to process everything that just happened between those 4 hours with this new block of work. So just start free writing, start free journaling. And from there, what's going to happen is you're going to notice different solutions and different answers arising after you've been processing all that in the back of your mind. And surprisingly, it's actually very effective and it works. This is actually how you can strategically use your subconscious mind to solve problems and actually get some sort of practical, tangible results. And the thing is that what I really want to stress is that you're not left behind in the world of work. Just because people are promoting all these different 80-hour work weeks and stuff like that, it's not necessarily about overworking yourself. It's about finding the right things to work on, and also to being able to have the right protocols, the right productivity methods and strategies. So anytime you come into your work, you're highly productive, you're perfectly optimized, and you're fully able to get into full focus and work at your highest level of genius. So you produce the best quality of work. So rather than just optimizing for something where your brain not even be fully there or something like that, you want to optimize for long stretches of time to really create meaningful and really important work that is in depth, that has better zest to it, that is more, I guess you can say, quality, right? Versus just something that's just service level and flat. So that is exactly how you do it. Just how the geniuses in the Renaissance did it. Just how all these different historical figures have done it. These knowledge workers. That's how you can do it yourself. Other than that, I hope this video was insightful. I hope you learned something great from it. And if you found that great, well, I also want to let you know that I have this newsletter where I talk about productivity, time management, optimizing yourself for peak performance. So if you're interested in getting these different tips and stuff like that completely for free in your email every single week, then what I encourage you to do is sign up. There's a link in the description, so check it out from there. And of course, thanks for watching. Hope to see you in another one.